In December 1811, in the dark dockland streets of East London, someone walked into two homes on 2 winter nights and left 7 people dead. The city had never seen anything like it. There was no police force to speak of, no detectives, no way to hunt a killer who came in the night and vanished into the fog. The panic that followed spread across the whole country. A man was arrested and died before he could be tried, and was buried at a crossroads with a stake through his heart. And yet, more than 200 years later, people still ask whether the right man was ever caught. This is the story of the Ratcliffe Highway murders. The Ratcliffe Highway ran through Wapping, in the East End of London, close to the great docks where the ships of the world came in. It was a hard, poor, dangerous place, a maze of narrow, unlit alleys, cheap lodging houses and taverns, crowded with sailors and dock workers from every corner of the earth. At night, the fog came up off the river, thick with the smell of tar and low tide, and honest people bolted their doors. In the middle of all this, at number 29, a young linen draper named Timothy Marr kept a modest shop and lived above it with his wife Celia, their baby son, and a young apprentice. Late on the night of the 7th of December, a Saturday, Marr sent his servant girl, Margaret Jewell, out to buy oysters for a late supper. She was gone only a short while. When she came back, the shop was locked and dark, and no matter how hard she knocked, no one came to the door. She could hear nothing inside, and then she thought she heard a single soft footstep on the other side of the wood. A neighbour, roused by her knocking, climbed over the back wall and let himself in. Inside, he found the whole household dead. Timothy Marr, his wife, the apprentice, and the baby in its cradle, all of them killed in the few minutes the servant had been away. A heavy shipwright's hammer, a maul, lay abandoned and bloodied on the floor. London reeled. Nothing so savage, so senseless, had happened within living memory, and worst of all, there was almost no one to catch the person who had done it. The old system of parish watchmen, elderly men with lanterns, was hopelessly unequal to it. The Thames River Police and the Bow Street runners were called in. Rewards were posted and handbills went up across the city. But the trail was cold, and a terrified public waited to see if the killer would strike again. 12 days later, he did. Half a mile from the Marr's shop stood a tavern called the King's Arms, kept by an older publican named John Williamson with his wife and their servant. On the very evening of the 19th of December, Williamson had told a constable about a strange man lurking near the tavern, listening at the door. That night, a lodger upstairs named John Turner woke to sounds he would never forget and crept to the stairs. Below him, in the lamplight, he saw a tall man bent over Mrs. Williamson. Turner did not wait. He knotted sheets together, climbed from an upper window half-dressed into the freezing street, and screamed for help. Below him, the whole household lay dead. Only a 14-year-old granddaughter, asleep upstairs, was spared, having slept through the entire ordeal. This time, the city did not just panic, it erupted. Church bells and drums called men into the streets. The roads out of London were watched, boats on the river were searched, and a national frenzy of fear and rumour took hold. Foreign sailors were blamed, strangers were seized, and the newspapers ran the horror for weeks. The authorities were under enormous pressure to find their man, and to find him quickly. They settled on a sailor named John Williams, a lodger at a nearby pub called the Pear Tree. He had been out late on both nights. He had once sailed with Timothy Marr and was said to hold a grudge against him. And the maul left at the Marrs had been traced to a chest of tools stored at the very lodging house where Williams slept. It was enough. Williams was arrested and thrown into Coldbath Fields prison to await trial. But the trial never came. On the morning he was to be questioned again, the guards found him hanging in his cell, dead by his own hand. To the authorities, this was as good as a confession. The case was closed. What they did with his body tells you how deep the fear had gone. On New Year's Eve, John Williams was laid on a cart and paraded slowly through the streets, past the very house where the Mars had died, before a silent, staring crowd. Then at the crossroads of Cannon Street and Cable Street, his body was tipped into a hastily dug grave. A wooden stake was driven through his heart to stop his spirit from walking, and quicklime was poured over him. He was the last man in England to be buried that way. For years afterward, people said the ground was cursed. And here is where the real mystery begins, because a great many people, then and since, have doubted that John Williams was the killer at all, or at least that he acted alone. He was slighter and shorter than the tall man the witness had described. Much of the evidence against him was thin and circumstantial, gathered by frightened officials desperate for a result. His landlady later admitted she had been pressured and had believed him innocent all along. He had sailed, it turned out, with more than one violent man who also knew Ma, and who were never fully pursued. A convenient dead suspect, staked into the ground at a crossroads, drew a neat line under a case the authorities could not otherwise solve. The Ratcliffe Highway murders helped shock England into building the professional police force it had never had, the force that would one day become Scotland Yard. But the case itself was never truly closed. 7 people died on 2 winter nights in Old Wapping, and the man buried at the crossroads may or may not have been the one who killed them. More than 2 centuries later, in the fog of that vanished London, we still cannot say for certain who walked the Ratcliffe Highway that December.